A new bill in California could prevent discrimination against the hairstyles of African Americans in the workplace and in schools. The bill is known as the Crown Act, which stands for Create a Respectful and Open Workplace for Natural Hair. In fact, multiple studies show that black women are twice as likely to experience social pressure at work to straighten their hair compared to their peers. The sale of hair relaxers used to straighten naturally curly hair dropped from 206 million in 2008 to 152 million in 2013. That indicates that more black people are choosing to wear their natural hair. I spoke with one student who says she's faced discrimination because of her hairstyle.
Honestly, like on a real personal level, it's really disrespectful just because it's coming from a place of not understanding the person's culture and their background and like why, these protective styles are necessary or just why they personally want to wear them or their cultural roots and all that.
SB 188, also known as the Crown Act, was passed on the Senate floor on a bipartisan vote of 37-0. Similar laws were passed in New York to help end discrimination of hair grooming rules in the workplace and in schools. I spoke with USC professor Ben Carrington about the history of hair discrimination in this country and against people of African descent around the world. When you first found out about the new California bill, how did you feel?
Again, it's sad that we need the bill, so I think that's the first thing to say. So the very fact that bills need to be passed to protect people's rights to have natural hair in the workplace. So I think that's a damnation of the existence and the continuation of white racism that we see today. But in some ways it's good, it's a good step, but I think we need to not just focus on the legal aspect, which is important, but to understand why are these bills necessary in the first place, and what does that still tell us about the ways in which workplaces still reinforce kind of white norms or white expectations about how you're supposed to behave. And that's not just around hair, that's around speech, and that can be around bodily comportment. In other words, we have these expectations as to what makes you professional. And although they're not explicitly racialized, no one says these are white expectations. Often implicit within these expectations is this assumption that a good worker, a professional worker, has straight hair, speaks, quote, like a white person, often very classed as well, that you have to have this kind of white middle class persona in order to be accepted. So the more that we can break down those barriers, those stereotypes, and say, are you able to do the job? Are you able to do that job well? And especially if like your hair has nothing to do with your job, then why should that be, any kind of barrier or bar to you having that job? As I understand it, the discussion is, can black people have natural hair? In other words, not having to change the hair or to add chemicals to the hair in order to be accepted in the workplace? And obviously the answer is yes. It also perhaps implies or shows that what is considered to be, quote, normal hair or professional hair is understood to be white hair. In other words, if your hair looks approximates to how we commonly understand white people's hair to look, then that's acceptable. And if it deviates from that white norm, then suddenly it becomes problematic. So I think in some ways maybe this is a good opportunity to think about racism within society and questions of aesthetics and how it relates to politics. For many people, the idea that hair is political would seem to be a strange one. Everyone just has hair, there's nothing political about it. But I think the history of black people in the US and actually black people globally shows that hair has actually often been an important site of political struggle and political identity.
The proposal to end discrimination based on hairstyle now moves to the California State Assembly.